Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Greater Good Show. First off, I want to thank my sponsors, San Diego Harbor Police Foundation, for allowing me to do this show. Or I get to bring on, in my opinion, it's my choice on who I put on my show. And today is no exception. This is an extraordinary woman. She has risen to the highest plateau in the world of food and beverage in San Diego County. Chef Deb Scott. Hi, Deb. How are you?
What an introduction. Hey, Jeff, how are you, my friend?
I'm great. I'm great. It's so nice to see you. Deb and I had lunch, almost 2 months ago, and,
Yeah.
and we were sitting atop the Symphony Towers at the University Club, and she was complimenting all the food, and I thought, like, how does that work? I mean, you're a world class chef, and it must be hard when you go into restaurants to not go, well, if they'd only maybe if they'd done that. Is that the way it works?
Well, a little bit, but I try my best just to have a good time because that's what you're there for,
Right.
and not to watch my watch and to look,
Right.
examine everything. But I can't say it isn't hard. It isn't hard to try to say, oh, if they'd only put that pizza on a screen, oh,
Right.
if they cooked that vegetable al dente and not killed it. You know what I mean? It's like
Right, right.
hard, hard sometimes, but you also want to realize that you're out as much for the food as you are for the enjoyment of your company. So
Mhm.
you have to keep that in mind and try to be cognizant of that when you're dining with friends.
You said something before we started the show about I said, "Are you in your kitchen?" And then I asked, "Is that what people in the industry call the place where all the food is prepared?" And you had a really nice comment. Can you repeat that for me?
Of course. Our group, Cohn Restaurant Group, we refer to our kitchen as the heart of the house. And typically in restaurant lingo, the dining room is the front of the house, and the kitchen is the back of the house. But we
Mhm.
prefer to call it the heart of the house because it's what makes the dining experience work. Without that component, of course, it's important to have the servers and everyone in the front to execute. But if
Right.
the kitchen is not in sync and not producing, then it makes it impossible for everything else to work. So that's kind of our premise behind calling it the heart of the house.
I love that. That's really great. So, there's been multitude of movies made about chefs and kitchens and restaurants and all of that, but and they often portray the chef's role as almost dictatorial. It's really a martial sort of atmosphere. Is that the way it really is?
At the end of the day, no, but yes. You want to work together as a team, as a family. You want to rely on certain people's strengths, and you want to create a level of family and camaraderie among your team. But at the end of the day, there's only one chief,
Yeah,
and there has to be ultimate decisions made that aren't debatable, so that you can operate smoothly and without a lot of back and forth. So I'd say a little of both. You want to create an atmosphere where everybody contributes, but then at the end of the day, someone has to make the hard decisions and keep the operation moving.
yeah, right. So I was always curious, where did the term chef come from?
Well, I guess it's kind of a derivative of chief, uh,
Mm,
the one in charge, the one who makes sure that everything happens, and also transversely the one who everyone looks at if it doesn't.
yeah,
So,
right.
so it works both ways.
Mhm, mhm.
Say I'm in charge of this kitchen, but I'm in charge of an efficient and well operated kitchen as opposed to I'm just in charge of this kitchen. So there's a certain level of responsibility and ultimately taking the hit for things that don't work out well.
Right. Yeah, yeah, that's always
Good
a
bad
disaster.
kitchen in any kitchen, as is any person ultimately in charge, as you have experienced in your career many times.
Yeah, yeah. So you're kind of a revolutionary, in terms of what you've done in the industry and how you've created efficiencies within your restaurants. And how many restaurants are in the Cohen restaurant group now?
Oh my God, I lost track. Somewhere in 35 range. I am partners with David Cohn in 10 restaurants, and for me, beginning, I had something a little different. And I in the restaurant business, you talk about points of difference.
Yeah.
And so when I met David and Lesley, I had a little restaurant called Indigo Grill, and
Mm.
people did not know what the food on the menu was: buckshot quail, black runner bean soup, all these things that people are like, what in the heck? So they would order based on what they would see walk by. And,
Right.
and were a foot and a half or more off the plate. Some things
Mm.
unrecognizable in the form they were in. Yet I tried to make everything interesting and taste good, obviously, but be different. Use spices they had not were not familiar with, presentations people were not familiar with, and hey, in 1994 that was a lot easier to achieve. So being a woman chef in San Diego, I got Chef of the Year the second year they ever had it, and a lot of recognition, and from David and Lesley too, because I was different. I had points of difference, and I
Yeah.
think important point to remember when you're doing any business where you have competitive type of process where people are making a decision of where to go and why they're going to choose you.
Yeah. I ate at Indigo Grill when it was fledgling, and it was wonderful. So, you mentioned something that hit me. I mean, the restaurant business is one of the most competitive industries in the world. And, I mean, people, I think they have misconceptions like in most things in life. And, like I don't think people understand how slim the margins are and how critical it is about ordering food at the right time so it doesn't spoil. I mean, it's a gigantic undertaking.
Yeah, it's not just cooking. It's a business, and if you're a good chef, you have to be able to operate the restaurant efficiently. Your P&L statement, profit and loss statement, has to make dollars and cents. You have to watch every controllable expense you have. These days, it's even more difficult with the cost of product, the cost of labor, and you have to balance your pricing with what the market will bear.
Yeah.
And hopefully achieve a good bottom line. Now, I will say it's easier to achieve that good bottom line with volume. Volume solves a lot of ills.
Right.
So if you're a small restaurant and a restaurant that doesn't do enormous numbers, covers, as they say in the restaurant business, then your job is even more difficult, and you're watching pennies.
Right.
We be watching pennies, but I think that when you get in a busy restaurant, uh, it's a lot easier to achieve that.
Yeah. Yeah. So the 10 restaurants that you're partners with David Cohen, do you want to share? I mean, you told me a story one time about how you and David and Lesley connected, and I was just, it was fascinating. I'd never heard of such a crazy thing before. Do you want to share that, or is it
No,
too?
not I'm happy to, 'cause it's a very interesting story, and I've told many of our guests I'm very proud of my association with David and Lesley, and the way it came about. So I first opened a. I'll just give you a quick little background. I first opened a restaurant in Alpine called Mediterraneo, and the way
Yeah.
that was, I had just gotten to town, and I went to an event just trying to network a little bit, and met a guy who was going to open up a pizza place in Alpine,
Hmm.
of all places. I was living in Miramar when I first moved here. So it wasn't exactly strategically the best location for me, but yet this guy was willing for me to say, "Hey, okay." I said, "There's a pizza place up the street. Why do you want to open a pizza restaurant?" He goes, well, it's what I know. I said, okay, let me expand on that for you. And perhaps I could open you a little eclectic Northern Italian restaurant, and teach your guys the recipes and see and give it a go,
Yeah.
which is an amazing experience for me because I got to go through the whole process of opening a restaurant,
Right.
someone else, footing the bill. So I did, and it became extremely popular. And after 7 months, I had it running and it was successful. So I moved on, and by chance, in that process, I had met another gentleman who had an Italian restaurant up in Encinitas, and he was looking to do something in Little Italy. And so again, I said, you know what? I'm ready to do something a little crazy. Why don't you just let me have carte blanche here and open something for you in Little Italy? So
Wow.
I went to Jackalope, which is a series of warehouses between Albuquerque and Santa Fe, and I bought everything. I bought all of the chairs, the tables, all of the design elements, everything, had them shipped back, named it Indigo Grill, drew a logo, which I gave to an artist to perfect. And I opened the first 42-seat Indigo Grill. And again, people were like, what is this food? I mean, Eleanor Wedmer was the reviewer at the time, and she actually had their artist draw two people at a table, a cowboy and an Indian, and they were both blowing fire at each other. She made title something about Chef Deborah's hot mama style of cooking because
Wow.
I eat and I like flavor and I like a heavy punch. So she was, it was a little much for her palate, but she recognized the fact that it was different and innovative and new for San Diego. And I think that's how I originally made, so to speak, somewhat of a mark in San Diego, was
Right.
by
Right.
being different, and it caught the eye of David and Lesley. So for Lesley leaving her business card for me several times, it said Lesley Cohn, proprietor of Dakota. And that was in the gas lamp, Dakota Grill and Spirits.
Right.
And so eventually David called me and asked me if I would meet him at Corvette Diner, which I said, okay. And he gave me the address and I met him there. I was like, all right, I'm going to check, go along.
Yeah. What have you
And,
got to lose?
yeah, what the heck? So I met him and he said, we're going to drive to 3 locations. You're going to choose one and you're going to become a very well-known restaurateur in San Diego. And I'm like, all right. So we looked at one in La Jolla, one in Hillcrest, and one in the Gas Lamp. And I chose the Kemo Sabe location in Hillcrest. The way we came up with the name is we had gone to lunch, and Lesley was there too, and we were talking about names, and I said, well, I want something strong with like the wasabi sound in it, and she goes, how about Kemo Sabe? And we all said great, and we had lunch, and that was it. It was Kemo Sabe. And
Great minds at work.
unique restaurant. I mean, you could never duplicate that restaurant. Anasazi ravioli, skirts on fire, Thai sticks, potted brownie. I mean, just all these crazy things that didn't even resemble what they were. And it was almost like a cult following for that restaurant.
Mhm. Oh, it was. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was so unique. And I would have the Corvette Diner dancers come over and dance through the dining room during service. I pulled a girl off the street one night to
Mhm.
because I hadn't, and by the way, she was a drag queen, because
Yeah.
because I didn't have that night, and we had the best time, and just some of the most crazy things that you would never even imagine now were they were Kemo Sabe. They were what we were,
Yeah.
and so it was a place and time, and I don't think they could ever be duplicated. But it's an amazing memory for me, and enabled me to move forward with Indigo Grill, with Island Prime, Sea Level, with Vintana, with Coasterra, and everything that came about afterwards. So it was the starting point for my career with David and Lesley.
So I've heard rumors, you know what those are all about, and that you used to work in the kitchen in combat boots. Is that true?
Yeah, it's true. That my first Indigo, I wore shorts and combat boots, and
I love it.
I was going to battle. And here I am in Little Italy, all Sicilian, Little Italy, very seated in their beliefs and in their restaurants. And
Yeah,
here I am, besides the Princess Pub, the only non-Italian restaurant in Little Italy.
yeah,
Can
yeah,
you? That's how long ago, and that is a fact. I was the only besides Princess Pub.
yeah.
So, uh, it was it was definitely a battle at times, and but a well taken one. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the fight. I enjoyed the adversity. I enjoyed the challenge of coming in and doing something different and being out of the norm and making sense of it.
Well, yeah. I mean, I love to cook myself. I'm not a chef at all, but I do enjoy cooking. And I'm always curious about because of the variety of restaurants that you've started and created. I mean, the food very, very diverse. And is there a particular style of food that, just really gets your juices flowing?
Well, I love Hispanic cuisine. I've spent quite a bit of time in Mexico, in Mexico City, Oaxaca, La Paz, all up and down the coast, in the valley, and just all over. And I love the culture. I love the authenticity, the grassroots style of cooking. I in Oaxaca we cooked in an open fire on a comal. I made all 7 moles with Susanna Trilling and her team at Seasons of My Heart, which is located next to the Monte Alban ruins in Oaxaca. The
Mm,
Zocalo, the center of town there. Mexican cowboys, the women with their handmade wares. Their architecture, everything about it for
yeah.
me, intriguing and appealing. I like things that are earthy and come from that environment. And so for me, it was a natural, and a lot of my original restaurants were based on Mexican and Native American. And then I also, with Kemo Sabe, added in another one of my loves into the mix before I really heard about fusion, which was Asian. So I think in that way I was a bit ahead of my time, and also combine things that I loved together to make something different and unusual.
Well, you had the credibility to be able to do that. If you had just been starting out that way, it might have been more difficult to, insert yourself into the industry, as it were. So Coasterra restaurant, it sort of embodies all of those things you're talking about. I mean, they have it's a great menu.
Yeah, I mean, we call it modern Mexican. There is a lot incorporated in that in today's style of cooking, and also a lot of traditional, as far as some of the preparations of the moles and chimichurris and the sauces that we prepare, and some of the authentic dishes we have. And I'm very proud of that restaurant. I love the modern, clean look. Besides the fact that it's the most beautiful restaurant in San Diego, and that nobody has that bay view with a floating event center that faces
Right.
down.
Yeah. Yeah.
No one has that location. No one.
No.
And so and as well as Island Prime and Sea Level. But with Coasterra, there's that modern flair that adds, and with all the glass that just is kind of the crowning jewel of my part of the group. And I'm very, very proud to be partners in Harbor Island, and to be able to be a part of such an incredible location and facility with so many incredible people working there. It's pretty amazing to look back and see. When I drive on the island, every day I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm a partner in this. I
What
mean,
a transformation.
say it.
My ex-wife used to work at the Ruben E. Lee as a hostess back in the 60s. and then, I mean, that thing has sat there for decades, and then look at what's there today. It's just, you would never believe it. I mean, it's
Yeah.
amazing.
For storage for years. It's crazy because it took so long, 7 years to get all of our permitting pushed
Oh,
through.
wow.
And I mean, the state line, or the coastal commission, the city, everyone, involved, and all of the environmental stipulations. And this person wants a walkway around it. This person doesn't want a shadow anymore of the grasses below. All of the elements that went into making
Mhm.
we were compliant in every way. So it was quite the challenge, and the actual build out took just less than a year. So it wasn't that, it was everything that led up to that are behind the scenes.
So how was the Port of San Diego to work with?
They're good. They're good. I mean, they definitely have their regulations, as well as they should have. But we've developed some great friendships with the port, and we look at the people that we work with, from the health department to the port, to every entity, as a partner and someone to learn with and grow with, and to trade, ideas. And so I think if you approach it in that aspect, I think it makes life a lot easier for everyone, and it's worked out very well for us. And we also have an amazing partnership on the island with Safe Harbor. They are a large group of marinas throughout the country and beyond.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
they have proven to be incredible partners, as were our prior partner, Sunroad Enterprises. So we've been very lucky in that we've had amazing partnerships through this whole process, and people that are there to help, and to be a part of what we do, and not put up obstacles and barriers, but yet help us find solutions and to move forward, and be even better. We're getting ready to put another huge facade on the front of the float, uh,
Oh, wow.
a wooden ship. It's going to be gorgeous, and so we're excited about that. Our friends over at Safe Harbor are designing and doing that project, and we're very proud of that. And every improvement that comes about for us is a plus. So it's just a thrill to be a part of all that, and to be able to premiere something to San Diego that is unparalleled.
So you do a lot of events on the float. How many people can you hold on that?
Well, it depends. I'd say all told, we've done 1,400 people on the event area and the float combined.
Mm,
Depends on what type of a venue or event it is. If it's a seated dinner, I believe we've had as much as 200 seated on the float, and then another 500 on land. Uh,
mm.
but we also do a lot of cocktail events, which you can incorporate more people. We get to do a lot of buyouts. We had a couple weeks ago, we had a couple buyouts
Yeah.
where someone just comes in and says, we want the whole restaurant for the night,
Wow.
and we don't want any other guests here. So they pay a premium, but they do that because they want the full experience, and they don't want to share. So,
Sure. Nothing
so
wrong if you've got the
yeah,
money.
yeah. Well, the only downside of that for me personally, because I'm extremely guest centric, and I think I've built my most of my success off of our guests. I thank my guests for my success. I spend a lot of my time with our guests, and I've built amazing relationships. So when we do a buyout, I know we're going to disappoint a certain sector of
Right.
people who are just going to walk in. Luckily, we have Island Prime and Sea Level right next door to accommodate the bulk of them, but I
Yeah.
hate to point our guests. So that's the biggest downside. But yet, at some point we have to say, yeah, you can take the restaurant for the night.
Yeah, it's good money. You don't want to turn that down. Yeah, for sure. So speaking of good money, I'm sure you're in the loop in terms of the golf issue that's going to come onto the island? What that should be a boom to your business.
It should be. I guess the only concerns. I mean, it's going to be great, but the only real concern is the traffic issue,
Yeah.
and the parking issue. So those are obstacles. I mean, you're talking about not a huge area here, and a lot of parking challenges already. So
Hmm.
if anything comes to mind that will be a huge challenge, it will be that. So yeah, but it is exciting, and it is exciting that they have chosen our area to have that come in, that entity come in. The first exposure I had to them I'm from Virginia Beach, and right off the highway on the boulevard on the highway, you can see the one off to the side. And
Hmm.
it's been years ago since it was built, but I thought, wow, what a unique concept.
Yeah, it's very successful, I guess. But it's different. That's for sure. If you think about putting a golf facility on a narrow harbor island with, like you said, limited parking space and traffic conditions that could get
Yeah,
out of
yeah.
hand. But the port, they're very smart about that stuff. So I'm sure they'll come up with a good plan all the way around.
Whatnot, and they'll accommodate it well. I'm sure they plan things out very well. So I don't see why they won't have a plan in place. Yeah.
So speaking of the port, this show is, by the way, sponsored by the San Diego Harbor Police Foundation, and you're like the most welcoming person in the world for our officers and staff. I mean, my gosh.
Whenever they come on the island, I always stop them and thank them and ask them if they want some lunch or whatever. Of course, you can't be giving away things to officers, but I always try to accommodate them. And do you want some coffee or whatnot? And thank them, especially thank them for their presence on the
Mhm.
island, because that sometimes it's a thankless job, and for me, it's one job that I feel it demands and should get a lot of respect.
Yeah,
And that's not the most popular comment these days, unfortunately, sometimes. But I say it anyway because I have so much respect for the police department and everyone that works within it, and a lot of admiration and thankfulness for their presence,
yeah.
because they protect us and help us and guide us, and I think it's a tremendous job.
Every once in a while, they like to go by your restaurant on the water in one of their firestorm boats and put on beautiful water displays for your clients.
Yes, every
Well,
once in a while they do that, and we find that amazing, and I know you have a hand in that, Jeff, and our guests are always in all of that, and also on occasion you'll have us join you with some of the younger people, and we admire and thank all of you for everything that you do for us. It's an amazing partnership.
yeah, no, well, the cops love it. They love your restaurant and your staff. I mean, you're very professional, and who doesn't want to stop in at Coasterra and have a meal of some sort, right?
It's an
It's
experience. For me, it's not just going there to dine. I mean, it's like a small vacation, or a small taste of being on a cruise ship, or because
mm,
it's kind of like takes you to another area, to another world. In a way, it gives you the opportunity to experience what feels like being on the water, and makes people, you can tell people just unwind. They're very tranquil. They enjoy time there, and I encourage people, sit and enjoy it. Don't rush,
right.
enjoy the experience,
Mm,
and have your time there. So everybody's always so, oh, it's been 10 minutes. I don't have my food yet. And I say to them, this is an experience. Relax, enjoy, you know,
right.
enjoy your time, get off your phone and look at the water and smell the salt air, and, you know,
Hmm.
beautiful downtown we have, and take a moment to breathe.
Yeah, that's really, really critical. Speaking of breathing, what do you do to relax? What's in your bag of tricks to help
Well,
you keep
um,
centered.
I have a wonderful home overlooking Lake Murray and Cowles Mountain, and we love to spend time there. We have some electric bikes we enjoy. We like walking, and especially in our area with all the hills, it's a challenge, but it's
Yeah.
good exercise, and it also clears the mind. Uh, Going out to eat, of course, is one of my favorite things to do. Visiting other countries and cities, um,
Mhm.
you name it. I like experiencing life. I also enjoy being home too. Uh,
Yeah.
Not something I get to do all the time. When I finished work last night, I came home to 20 people at my home for Thanksgiving.
Wow.
We had a wonderful evening with friends and family, a very diverse group. I always make sure that we include in our group some of my guests, usually some that have not been spent time at my home yet, so that I have an opportunity to get to know them better and to
Right.
kind of pull them into the mix of my world. And I think it's a fun thing to do, and I try to incorporate that as much as possible.
You know, there are a lot of there are two kinds of people in the world. You've got takers and you have givers. And you're one of those beautiful, rare givers. And I mean, you give in the form of the magnificent food you create, the atmosphere you've created for that food, but even above and beyond that, you give all the time. And it's really a pleasure to have you as a friend and know that about you.
Well, I can't say enough about you, Jeff. And if you're talking about somebody who gives and who has so much to offer, you are at the pinnacle of that, in my opinion. But for me, it's a matter of sharing and enjoying other people's friendship, and when you can, giving back to them and giving back to the community and the people that have served you well and have taken care of you. And that's why I try to pay tribute to our guests in ways like that. We have our community that does a Thanksgiving drive, and we
Mhm.
always help out with that. And at Christmas, we go down into to kitchens and help there and whatever. But there's a certain a selfish aspect of that because it feels
Mhm.
good, when you like that. Good for you,
Yeah.
but selfish in a way too, because you get enjoyment out of it. And I love to see people's faces when you do things. I have a friend that lives out in Missouri, and the family doesn't have a whole lot, and they work hard, and it's hard for my friend to get his truck around when he wants to do jobs outside. He's always active outside. So one year for Christmas, so I bought him a UTV,
Oh my gosh.
and he was crying, and it brought me pleasure, more pleasure than if I'd bought one for myself. So those kind of things have a kind of a selfish element to them too. And I don't usually talk about that, but it points to the fact that it's nice to see other people have enjoyment from what you've achieved too, not just yourself.
Yeah, that's really well spoken. I think if you define the word gift, to provide something of apparent value with no expectation of return, that really brings it all together, and that's kind of the definition of Deb Scott. So, I mean, plus, I mean, you're a great business person in addition to that. So, I mean, so that gives you the opportunity to be a giver. Much
Yeah. And
much. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
David, uh, David and his son-in-law, Mike Feynman, they're an amazing backbone for me. And David has been a mentor and best friend for me for 27 years. And that has gone a long way for me in enabling me to learn and grow with him and with them. And I'm very fortunate in that respect.
Yeah, they've really made a mark. You've made a mark in San Diego and other places. I was in New York City last week for an event, and the Cohen Restaurant Group name came up randomly. I have no idea how it came up. I was in an Italian restaurant, and the bartender was talking about some of the better restaurants that she's been to throughout the United States, and Coasterra's name came up, and I said, "Oh, geez, how funny! I know that restaurant." But yeah, here I am, 3,000 miles away, and your restaurant came up. Your signature restaurant came up.
That's nice.
Yeah, yeah, very. It was fortuitous, and then I knew I was going to see you remotely.
Well, it's always my pleasure, my friend. You are an amazing person with and very humble. And for me, that's extremely amazing attribute to have with everything you have accomplished in your life, to be humble. And I admire that very much.
Well, thank you. I'm learning to say thank you.
I know it's hard to explain.
You know what it's like, when people want to compliment you all the time, and you're going, I'm really just doing
Well,
what I love doing.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I want to thank you, Deb, so much for your time today. You're an extremely busy businesswoman, very successful restaurateur, 10 restaurants. Good Lord. Do you eat at all them? I mean, all the time, or what? How's that work? You just like, if it's Monday, I have to go to Prime. If it's
Or
Tuesday, it's Vintana.
yeah, yeah. Fridays I go to Vintana typically, and I do have lunch with the group with our managers, and it's kind of a time to have a little camaraderie and talk about what's gone on through the week. I'm on the island, at least 3 to 4 days a week. I have a little place out in La Mesa, which uh, which I enjoy visiting, and yeah, and then a few others, but it's very diverse and fun, and I get to kind of bounce around, which is more my style than staying in one place.
Yeah, I'm with you. I get nervous if I'm not doing something. I had a very close friend who passed a few years ago at the ripe age of 94, I believe. And he used to always say, if you rest, you rust. So I try to keep that in mind.
I,
So speaking of rusting, what are the most innovative things in today's modern uh, kitchens? What's making your life work so much better than, say, 10 years ago?
well, I think the combi ovens, they're a combination of a convection oven and steam. They enable, and then the CVAPs, which are a smaller version of that. They work off a computer pad, and
Mm,
you can program them. And okay, for instance, you could put a fillet into a combi at 10 in the morning and serve it at 5 p.m., and it would still be the medium rare that you put it in there at, and it
wow,
would stay warm, and the same as it was when you put it in there. So
amazing.
I think that most larger kitchens these days have combis. They're not cheap by any means. They can range up to $40,000, $60,000. So they're
Right.
not, but they are extremely efficient, and I think it's been the most groundbreaking piece of equipment that a restaurant can have. Uh,
Yeah.
that especially if you're doing volume, and especially if you're doing larger events.
Yeah,
Mm.
right. Well, I'll have to put that on my Christmas list to get the
Well,
mini
actually,
one. The
and
mini one.
I do have a small one in my kitchen. Uh,
Okay.
a steam convection oven, and it's made by Wolf, and I know that other companies make them as well, but it's a small, very small format of that oven, and I do use that one, and it's pretty amazing. It
I
does everything from baking dough breads to steaming vegetables to anything in between. It's pretty amazing.
just have to max out my Amex card to get one. So
Baby.
maybe. Well, I want to thank you again for spending time with us today. It's been very enlightening, as always. I love spending time with you, Deb, and I want to just wish you all the best for the holidays, you and your family and your partner and your restaurants. And oh, we lost Deb. There she is.
Yeah, sorry, I came in there and got
I was just wrapping us up here. Sarah was giving me the sign. She goes, "Oh, you've been on 38 minutes, Jeff." So
33.9.
all 39. Very good. So I want to thank all my listeners and encourage them to look forward to our next show in December. I don't have the list in front of me, but I'm sure it's going to be someone really interesting as soon as Sarah tells me who it is. Uh, I couldn't do the show without Sarah. She's an amazing woman. I hope you get to meet her sometime, Deb.
Well, maybe you can bring her to have lunch with us.
I'm sure I can do that.
Okay.
And her husband, who's a big meat of a guy, he'll eat you out of house and home. So I'll bring him along.
Sounds like a plan.
Take care. Have a great holiday.
Yeah, Merry Christmas to everyone. Happy holidays. And it's always a pleasure, Jeff. I hope to see you soon.
Sounds great.
All right. Take care.